Synth came in here to talk about like toxic masculinity, which is something I kind of like just chatting about yesterday in chat, and then it came into this thing about the whole Gillette ad, and I had some viewers saying the Gillette ad was like anti-men because it was attacking masculinity, which is naturally men, and this is a whole thing to get into if people want.
I'm just gonna be right back real quick, so I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good.
A lot of people
Actually,
think-
before we start, let me see. Joseph, are you saying something?
Yeah, I'm saying stuff.
Okay, let me turn you up. You're real quiet. Try again.
Does that sound any better now?
A little bit. You're still a bit quiet, but we can at least hear you now. That's improvement.
What about
I don't know if that was any louder.
now? Last track, how about that?
That is better.
Okay, don't have my microphone 1,000 miles away.
Yeah, I've got you turned up max settings on Discord, so this is the most we can do for you. But,
Okay.
so talking about toxic masculinity, Synth, did you want to start? Because you said this is actually the topic you wanted to come in here for. Or Synth is now muted.
Synth, you there, buddy?
Hey. Oh, my bad. Yeah, sorry. Sure, we could start that. So, I guess, like, the place to start would be, like, what parts of masculinity are toxic? And, like, kind of how I'd answer that would be, like, there are things like stoicism, like, holding in your emotions and not being able to, like, express, or not having to express them around anyone else. There are things like, I don't know, there are really bad aesthetics that not everyone can attain, that I think are becoming part of masculinity, and I think that's probably a bad thing. It's also happening with femininity, but yeah, like that's kind of generally what I'd like to start with.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that, like, you can't just hold in your emotions forever, you know, you just fucking blow up.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. Well, the thing that I like to find is that it's been like an actual study. What in I think there's like middle or like a lot of Asian not a lot, but there are some Asian cultures where their death like age is actually quite a bit lower because of how you hold in your emotions, how that causes stress, and how that stress causes you to like die quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of aggressive by nature, and I learned pretty quick on you gotta say at least something, even if it's small, otherwise it just, like, eats me up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I wish I had the transcripts from my like stream yesterday, what people were saying in chat, just so I don't like mess any of this stuff up. But some of the viewers were saying things like men shouldn't be like showing emotion because that's not like being masculine. And I tried, which means they're like less of a man for that. And I tried drawing some aside, like, well, if we, if they can't display their emotions, they're probably less likely to seek mental help when they need it, which means eventually things are going to happen. And maybe that's part of the reason why men are more likely to, be involved in certain crime, especially like violent crime. And these are all outcomes that might be attributed to it.
I mean, it also leads to an increased suicide rate.
I forgot to bring that up. You're right, though.
Yeah, it's a thing that MRAs like to bring up, but they don't actually care about. But like, I grew up in one of those households. I can definitely tell. I mean, it was three boys. My middle brother was the worst one with it, and he's still kind of bad with it. But there's a lot of things that go into that can cause damage down the line. Depression is pretty rampant in my family, but the only one who's honest about it is me. Our anger issues is a constant thing. And we've talked, me and my brothers have talked about how we kind of grew up in this like non-emotional household where, our dad didn't really want to hug us and things like that. Like, my dad's, he's a good dad. There's nothing like that. But, like, he's a old military guy. He's an old Union guy. So he's got kind of a way about him that he deals with things that's very much on that edge of, well, I have either anger or I have nothing, which is usually how the toxic masculinity works. Is, it's manly to just get angry, and every other time you kind of have to just be in this state of, I have no emotions, and it's ridiculous. It wears on you. There's nothing wrong with having emotions. There's nothing even really feminine about it. It just kind of exists as a thing.
Sure, but if you take the other end of the extreme, right? There's people out there that will share every single emotion and every thought that pops into their head and whine. And, when you're trying to push through something, that can really be like torture for other people.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, that's more a problem. That's more of a them problem, not a masculinity problem.
I think
Yeah,
we
but,
can
like-
all agree. You can go ahead.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. I think we can all agree that, anger management and stress management is skills that everybody should have. And anything that's, or any person that's trying to keep someone from getting that skill is not really being that helpful to that individual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop you from being manly. It doesn't stop you from being a man. It's just, this, and there's also an emphasis on sex and how we basically have to just be horny all the time for women. So we wind up treating women really badly, and like, what good comes out of that?
I mean, that's
Sure.
just how we're wired, though.
Let me ask a question in here. So who considers themselves non-binary?
What?
Me, baby.
No one in here?
No, me. I do.
Synth.
You do, Synth?
Yep.
So how do you treat the women and treating men? How men treat women. How do you take all that?
How do I take all that? I think it's really fucking stupid that we have these gender roles that people think that people have to fit into, and people just treat other people like shit, and at the end of the day, that's actually what's happening.
I honestly
And
agree.
what needs to be done is that people need to stop treating other people like shit. It doesn't matter what position you're in, it doesn't matter who you are, you need to not treat people like shit. And if that's happening, then that's a bad thing, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's people, though. That doesn't have to do with, like, gender.
I mean, wasn't he asking about what I think about, like, men or women?
I'm just saying, like, using the idea of, some, men are treated this way, so they act this way. You kind of answered the question, but I was really asking, like, so how do you feel about, like, that idea that a man has to treat a woman a certain way?
I don't think anyone has to treat anyone any certain way other than just, like, not generally being a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you how I personally deal with things, but I don't think it's a good way of dealing with things for normal people, so.
Yeah, but you're like no special treatment for either side, right?
Yeah, no. Every single person should just pretty much run on the golden rule and, like, generally be nice to people because it maximizes the well-being of everyone in the nation. Or, assumably it would. Hopefully.
So I came in a bit late. Are we just talking about how we treat each other then, or is there anything else that's been going on?
This has kind of started with like a toxic masculinity kind of thing, but we can branch out from there. We watched a video yesterday talking about I want to say it was youth in the UK. Maybe I'm wrong. About how like boys grow up around boys, but when they reach a certain age, we start teaching boys, well, you need to act a certain way around other boys because you don't want to be like perceived as gay. and it starts getting into the whole like people that use gay as an insult, whether they mean it negatively or not. It is something that absolutely happens. And men have to like behave differently. So men like you can't just go like as a guy, I couldn't go just get dinner with another guy because we might be perceived as a couple, and why that's like systemically wrong or whatever.
I mean, I think we should teach kids to respect each other, but I'm not sure I can add much else beyond that, to be honest.
What was in my chat? Sorry.
Do we have anyone that agrees that the Gillette commercial was anti-man?
I think
Yeah,
it was
I mean,
stupid.
Yeah, I thought it was
It
definitely.
was a dumb marketing idea.
I haven't
mean,
seen it.
It,
What is
it
it?
worked.
Yeah, no, it definitely worked. They lost
Wait,
the-
which
I don't
one
think
are you talking about?
It's the one where they had a bunch of like dads on a grill, and you see the two kids fighting. They're like, "Oh, boys will be boys."
Yeah.
Who hasn't
Oh,
seen
yeah.
it? 'Cause I can send it
That's
to
dumb.
you.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't? Okay, I'll send it to you. Anybody else want me to send it to them if they haven't seen it?
Just like post it
I've
in
seen it.
general or something.
Oh, I'll just post it in general, sure. Yeah, this got a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah, dude,
This
they
is
lost
not
like
new.
$8 billion. It was like a stupid thing. Like an anti. I mean, it wasn't exactly anti-men, but it sounded an awful lot like that. And it's a commercial to like men's razors. Like that's so stupid. That's like
Did you hear their
McDonald's going on
CEO's
my food.
reasoning behind it?
It was worth it in the end. Totally worth an $8 billion loss.
No, he was like, well, you see, like women help contribute to men buying razors, so this was a way to make the wives convince their husbands to buy our razors.
I mean, my own personal view on the video was
Extra
that
insulting.
I don't think the video was anti-men, but I do think it was kind of emblematic of a certain kind of advertising.
Yeah. I don't think it was anti-men, but I think it was just bad marketing, period.
I don't know if it was bad marketing, to be honest. I think it was probably very good marketing. I don't know what their accounts are like, but you know,
Great
they
marketing if you want to lose money.
Yeah, they lost money before this.
were
They-
losing
they-
money anyway.
No, I mean, if they never made the ad, I don't think they would lose money from, cancel Gillette, hashtags or whatever,
Yeah,
cancel
dude, they-
culture.
Seriously, like look at their like sales drop after this ad campaign. They like bailed halfway through.
I mean, I think their sales were going down anyways because there's a lot of pop-up things like Harry's Razor and Dollar Shave Club. But I mean, it was great marketing because a lot of people were talking about Gillette. Every time you search
I
it
don't know.
to even
I think there's bad marketing too. I don't think there's
Is
just
there-
people talk about it's a good thing.
Dude, if
I
you're
mean-
I don't know. I
marketing
think.
is
Well, I think it's
tracking
a.
your money. It's not good marketing.
Hold on.
Well, that's what I'm trying to look up is because like there might have been initial blowback, but a lot of times with these things is once the thing backfires, once the outrage goes away, their sales go up because people decide that they like the thing, and they were like, actually, nobody's looking, so let me just go back and buy it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's
if someone
important
can
to
share
use
that
it.
information, that'd be very helpful.
Yeah, I'm trying to find their updated sales information. There's just a lot of people talking about the initial loss.
Okay. When I said that I think
maybe
it's
a current
emblematic
statement would
to
be helpful.
kind of advertising, what I meant was that basically, I'm not sure necessarily why they do this, but we've definitely seen a rise in what I would call socially conscious advertising. Companies go to great pains to present themselves as being socially conscious because of probably profit-driven motives, and I can give you a few different examples of this. There's I think it's very famous now, advert by Pepsi, which was derided very quickly after it came out. And you can find it on YouTube, just look for Pepsi protest adverts.
Is this when
but
what's her name gives a Pepsi to a Coke in the middle of a BLM protest?
Mm-hmm.
No, it wasn't.
And that
it
fixed
wasn't
everything.
Exactly that. It wasn't
Yeah.
exactly that. It was emblematic of the entirely sort of meaningless adverts that are constantly made. So you see this lady. I think I know nothing about modern actors or anything, so I don't know who she is. I think she's someone famous. Going about their day, and then you see like people protesting. They're carrying banners, and then there's a confrontation between the protesters and the policemen. But then this woman comes in. I think she gives a Pepsi to a police officer, and then everybody kind of joins together, and we're one and harmonious, and we all love each other. And isn't it nice when we can set aside our differences and get along like reasonable adult people?
Yeah,
But
that's what
for
we're talking about.
example, the right side of history, you did just say that in this video it's a BLM protest, but if you look closely, it's not actually a protest about anything. None of the protesters are holding signs that actually show anything, right? They're all got slogans like, we demand more, be better. You know, like if it's a BLM protest, it'd say like Black Lives Matter or something like that on it. It's like an advert that happens in a void where there is no like meaning. There just is this protest. It's not a protest about anything. They're not protesting something specific. It's just a non-specific protest, and then non-specific police officers, and non-specific Pepsi. It exists in the void, right? It exists in the realm of fiction. But that advert was derided when it came out, and rightfully so. But that's only because it's like a really bad example of how you do this. There are other examples of like progressive advertising, and I don't think it's a conspiracy because I think there's a tendency for some people on the right to see these kind of things and to feel attacked by it. It's like evidence that these companies have got it out for them. But here's another example, like what was the name of the company? Pink Drill Bits. Have any of you ever heard of this?
Nope.
Pink Drill Bits. An oil company, in order to raise money for the Susan J. Komen Foundation, I can't remember the name of the oil company, painted their drill bits pink to raise awareness for women suffering from breast cancer. Raising awareness for women isn't a bad thing, suffering from breast cancer. I hope we can all agree on that, right? Like,
I'll agree with protecting boobs, no problem.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's pro breast cancer here.
yeah, precisely. But it's an oil company. They get oil out of the ground. There's a lot of evidence that links the fact that living next to an oil field increases the chance that you'll get cancer. So chances are people who live next to there who might be women might have gotten breast cancer because they live next to an oil field where they're doing all this dangerous shit. And you've got to really question their motives for doing these kind of things. And I'll give you the most egregious example. It's just the last example I want to give, and this is from the early 2000s. In the early 2000s, if you read the book No Logo by Naomi Klein, it's an excellent book about this kind of phenomenon and about branding and about branding but not really branding. But in the early 2000s, the Nike shoe company was facing a lot of criticism for their labor practices because obviously they were manufacturing shoes in these countries where they were employing 12-year-old girls to make shoes for pennies, right? And then shipping them to the US where they would then be sold for hundreds of dollars. Capitalizing on this, the Reebok shoe company, Nike's rival, funded what they call the Reebok Human Rights Award. They decided to give out grants to people from communities who had done activism regarding to human rights, right? Because they wanted to say that Reebok cares about humans and it cares about people and it cares about rights. So they did, they gave all this money away to all these young activists who'd done all these brilliant things, who'd helped their communities, had stood up to these big entities and brought them down or whatever, protected their rights. Reebok shoes are made in the exact same factory that Nike shoes are made in by the exact same people. All of these shoes are made in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
That was something
It's
that
true.
eventually I was going to get into because, like, honestly, I like the message of the commercial, but overall, these commercials are they're just marketing. They're just a way to trick people into buying your stuff.
It's capitalism with a human face. It's
Yes.
That is it. The Reebok shoes are made in the exact same conditions that Nike shoes are made in, but because the anti-sweatshop movement was focusing on Nike shoes at the time, Reebok felt that if they promoted human rights, they'd make themselves look better.
I'm trying
and arguably, what they did was probably a good thing, giving money to young human rights activists who could then help their communities even more than they already had done. But at the end of the day, it was not because of a genuine desire to help people. It was driven by a kind of very calculated sort of I don't know how to describe it, but you get what I mean, right?
Yeah.
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 I mean, I would still argue it's a good thing. Like, it doesn't matter what you're thinking if you do a good act.
You could argue that, right? And I'm going to say that that's legitimate if you think that way, if that's how you feel about it. But when we see these adverts, all I think is that you need to consider why these adverts happen. And it's not because of some kind of conspiracy by weirdos who just want to destroy Western civilization or whatever, or because people are anti-men or whatever. It's just part of this whole thing about companies trying to be socially responsible because they know that there's a lot of negativity that can come from being seen to be like evil, faceless, or whatever. And one of the ways they do this is by making adverts like the Gillette advert, and that also has the side effect of then generating a lot of conversation about it. Sometimes it doesn't work, as we've seen with the Pepsi advert and possibly with the Gillette advert, but a lot of the times it does work.
Everything
and I
I'm
do think
everything
you have
I'm
to be
finding
skeptical about motives.
everything I'm finding on the Gillette sales is their sales were already really low before the ad, because of what I said earlier, like competitors like Harry's Razors and Dollar Shave Club, because well they're cheaper and they sell the same product pretty much. The what I'm seeing like barely mentions the commercial. And this is updated as of July 30th of this year. Any other
Yes.
article I find was from around that time. So, I mean, it's completely unrelated. It was an attempt by them to do something, but, I mean, it didn't work because they were already losing sales. The ad had nothing to do with it.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I think they still failed due to the fact that it didn't bring the company back up.
Well, Gillette doesn't even make that much money as a whole for Procter and Gamble, which is what owns them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Procter and Gamble still turned a huge profit on the year.
I think Gillette in that like subsection only is like 5% of their total profits. Same way with like Twitch is like 1% of Amazon's profit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean,
Twitch
if you want to
isn't.
talk about just real quick, if you want to talk about Gillette's like feminist credentials, they're the same company that's accused of artificially inflating the prices of their feminine branded products because they know that women are more, they think that women are more likely to pay more money for razors.
And
so long
there's
as they're
this
painted the right
exactly
colour.
the same product.
Yeah.
The pink
Yeah.
tax.
Mm-hmm. No, that's all true.
By the way, Level, just going back to your story about the pink drill bits, I'm sure you don't support, that drill company, but, whenever I look at these companies trying to advertise for activist causes or whatever, I always think to myself, how much did this ad cost? How much did it cost to, just paint some pink stuff on a drill versus actually contributing money to research or an actual organization that does things?
Yeah, and to be 100% clear as well, this isn't just something that happens to. They don't just advertise to the left. There's also companies that do the exact same thing to the right. It's perhaps not as common, but I can.
Well, I think like bar stools.
I wonder if those
sports,
are
whatever.
more transparent or something. Because I was having trouble coming up with companies that are advertising to right wing so much. Like, I think those
No
companies might be
right-wing
the
in the
ones that are
media.
more likely to do like sports ads. Which
Like, if you're right wing, you better keep your
Serfs, thank you
Whoa,
for the
what?
raid. Hi,
Oh,
everybody.
nice.
Hello, Serfs.
Welcome. We're doing a little debate right now on Leon Cypher's stream. If you guys want to, thank you for the follow. If you guys want to go ahead and also show him some love. Wow. Glad to see you all. And enjoy the conversation. We're all talking about the Gillette ad and the effects afterwards.
Should we
the toxic
introduce ourselves
masculinity.
again?
Yeah, we can go ahead and take a moment to introduce ourselves.
Yeah,
too.
go ahead, guys. Go ahead. I'll introduce myself last.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and introduce. My name's Leon Cyphers. That's my Twitch name and my real name because I'm trying to make like a Google footprint to become a political activist later or a politician. I pretty much do like political social commentary, and I've been organizing these kinds of debates. We do it every Monday and Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. if you want to join us.
I just put your link in the chat. And thank you all for the follows. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. My name's, I guess you could call me True Leveler. I'm British, if you didn't notice. I consider myself a socialist, mostly a democratic socialist, but I'm also interested in human rights law and international law. That's kind of like the thing that I focus on a lot. So if you want to know anything, if you want to know anything about like really weird minutiae about how the UN works, then I can tell you everything about it. It's really awful.
He's really knowledgeable about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anything about anything else. Like, I gave up my brain in order to just know how the UN works. After that, I forgot everything else I know. But yeah.
By the way, True Lever, are you in Model UN?
No, I've never been
Okay.
in anything like that.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Right Side of History. Find me on Twitch at twitch.tv Right Side of History. Can't find me on Google. The only thing you'll find is a book made by Ben Shapiro. I did not make this name knowing this. And you can call me a non-ethnic nationalist. That's what I call myself.
I think the link you posted is the wrong one. Do you want me to
Okay.
post the links, or...
Oh, anyone else?
Alright, yeah, I guess I'll go. Alright, so I'm Synth. I play games. I play like Minecraft and League of Legends, and I enjoy talking politics. I'm currently taking classes to become a philosophy major, so that hopefully that can translate to something within politics in the real world. Yeah, I have a nice little stream every once in a while, and I'd be willing to talk to anyone who showed up. So, yeah.
I can go next. Joseph, I'm filling in for lecture in middle, trying to represent the Republican side of things, doing a half-assed job at it.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine.
Yeah, we appreciate it though.
Yeah.
I seriously, if I'm not like, if you see my stream and I'm not like looking ahead or something, I'm probably trying to find more conservatives to join the stream. That's a lot of what I'm doing over here.
Yeah, dude, it's tough being a conservative.
All right,
in
now
2019.
I'll go ahead and do my little pitch. So I gotta get into it. And I, of course, am Marc Monkey. I host a weekly rant, is what I call it. I post it on YouTube. You'll see the links pop up every now and then from my bot. And I do these streams, co-streams. I also stream Overwatch and various other games just for fun. But this is my main focus. God, what else do I do? I'm a musician. Sometimes I do guitar streams. I'm all over the place. But yes, I am SOCDEM. To the left of Destiny, I'll put it that way. And I thank you guys so much for the raid and all the follows. This is amazing.
So what you're
Love
saying
you
is
all.
you're center right.
What's that?
So what you're saying is you're center right, right?
Oh, no.
Nah.
It's like every other day I keep questioning where he's actually at.
Yeah. Because
I
he
need
calls
some
himself a SOCDEM, but whenever he talks, he just sounds like a liberal.
Yeah, well, you know, it works for him, right?
It's clever marketing, right?
Yes.
He's got enough viewers, he can really do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
People keep coming to him, so. Is there any? Did we miss any other introductions, or we get back on topic?
No, that's everyone, I think.
Okay.
I tried to post
I'll
the
attempt to.
Yeah.
'Cause I just shot up to 114 viewers, so
Holy crap!
yeah.
Yeah, Leon, let me just address this whole, people on the right and on Twitch. Look, man,
Sure.
you're not going to find anybody coming on here. You're going to have to try to reach out to other websites because, like, for real, maybe the company might not be trying to, but somehow they're targeting, like, conservatives and at least conservatives feel targeted here.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
I actually
big
did.
tech
We're supposed to have
platforms are doing
3
it.
conservatives on here tonight, and I just don't know where everyone else is at.
Oh, sorry.
That's not your fault.
No.
Well, I mean, I'm on the right, so.
People choose
I'm sure
to
it
show
takes-
up if they want to.
Yeah. Yeah. Best I can do is invite them, and
I feel really bad now because I gave that really epic rant about like advertising and I've wasted it now. I should have done it like I should have waited 10 minutes before I said it.
Yeah, you should have said your whole portfolio.
Yeah. Oh well. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I personally don't like all the like targeted advertising towards that's happening. We went through some, like the Gillette ad definitely was like targeting people on the left, right? Those are the kind of people that are more likely to like enjoy that ad. Even Twitch, I had problems with during Pride Month because they started like trying to sell like Pride shirts and everything on their website, and they even donated, I think, 10% to the Trevor Project, but it was like 10% up to like a limit.
I looked into that. I think that Jagex, the RuneScape company, donated more to charity than Amazon managed to do for the shirt. Which,
Yeah.
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I remember having this discussion with somebody talking about how they had this arbitrary limit on how much they were going to give, and Amazon's got like infinite money. And then you look at how much they donated to charity, and then you look at how much like Jagex, the RuneScape company, donated.
Yeah.
Again, it's like tokening, right? They treat it like as a trophy rather than an actual problem.
Yeah, like they could have easily like put more money in. They just didn't. Like they didn't need to put a limit on. They did 10%, which I understand, like they want to make some money off of it, but I feel like you can make money elsewhere, especially if you're Amazon. Like all these things, like in a lot of companies, it's not just Amazon, where it's like, hey, we like the gays in our company, look at us. Like, it just felt like weird, like it's a weird flex advertising.
We have basic human consciences.
It's like, yeah, it's like, hey, we like the gays 1 month a year.
Yeah, I mean, I have a problem with advertising in general, but it's the world we live in, and I don't like the targeted ads, the political ads either, because they kind of don't make sense. Like Leveler pointed out earlier, I mean, it's just a ploy, and that's all marketing is. It's just meant to get people to buy the product. They don't actually mean what they said. But I will give it to them that ad was actually really legit and had a great message. Whether you agreed with it or not, is something for further discussion, and it created a discussion. So overall, I call that a net positive for the world, even if it didn't help their sales, even if it was just a marketing play. So it's just kind of one of those things that exists, neither good nor bad, and we just kind of acknowledge it's here.
Hey, lecture.
Yeah, I would say that, like, I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad thing. I just think that people have to be aware of what companies are doing when.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, welcome.
Hey.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Somebody told me to come on over and say what's up, so
This guy.
thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Joseph, there he is. What's up, Joseph?
I mean,
Yeah,
if you want Sorry.
I was gonna say we're talking about like toxic masculinity, the Gillette ad, like how companies are like kind of advertising to the left a little bit. But if you want to introduce yourself and jump in on this, you're welcome to.
Sure. No. Yeah. I'm lctrfan. You can call me Lecture. That's it. I stream on Twitch every night and do politics. I think the original conservative politics focused stream on Twitch. I started doing conservative politics back in like 2014. 2015, back when it was like basically you would get banned from channels for even talking politics, and so I've been doing conservative politics for a long time, and yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it.
I just want to say real quick, somebody in Marc's chat made an excellent point about advertising to the left as opposed to just advertising to people who are like
non-political,
or kind of like left-leaning, kind of like liberal sensibilities, that sort of people. And I've never seen an advert say, "Hey, aren't trade unions a great thing? Support Trade Union Day or whatever." So yeah, there's also definitely an element of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, the
McDonald's sponsors the communist revolution. Sorry. Right. Right.
I mean, it used to the traditional business advice was stay out of politics because you have customers on the right and the left. You have customers that are Republican and Democrat, and this applied not only to businesses but also to sports stars, music stars, basically anything that wasn't actual politics. And so that was a traditional advice because you don't want to actually piss off one side or the other. And so frankly, I think it's interesting how like businesses have started doing this. They have to be getting super high level advice but from all of the big advertising agencies who've done tons of research on all of this stuff and have convinced the executives at these companies that going like super woke, super SJW is gonna work well for them. And I think it is working. If you look at like what happened to Nike stock after the Colin Kaepernick thing and Gillette, I'm sure still is doing better than it was before. And it's like, man,
it's
I
not.
think
That one didn't work for them.
Oh, okay. I'm actually surprised to hear that.
I actually looked into it, and their sales were going down more so because of Harry's Razor and Dollar Shave Club and things like that. It really boiled down to their sales were already dropping, and they did that sort of like to help them, and it didn't really help them. Their sales were already heading that way anyways. But yeah, Nike, Keurig, all those worked.
Right. And I think the reason is because conservatives are not like liberals. We don't boycott, we don't ban people. If we don't like a product, we don't buy the product. If the product is good product, we buy the product. We're not like a leftist and a liberal like crying and boycotting all the time.
I mean, that's not true.
Several
I don't
several
agree with
right wingers smashed their Keurigs, lit their Nikes on fire. It was a huge media campaign built around destroying these products and then buying them again to destroy them. That's not true. Please do not lie. Thank you.
I don't think he's lying. I think
it is. It was a huge giant thing all over Twitter. How did you miss that?
He might not be aware of it. It's not that he could be lying.
I don't know how. I don't know how. It's my whole thing because it was all over the news too. Every news station.
I'll be watching the same news.
I didn't do
Fox
it. I didn't
News
say
did
that
it.
there's not a single person
let
out
her
there
go.
that ever heard about it. Like, I'm not saying there's not a single person on any side that ever got upset about it. Like, you totally missed the point, which is that I'm talking about the market as a whole. And dude, I'm so used to these leftists and these hard nut job radical leftists getting so mad and attacking me personally and calling me a liar. Totally unsupported.
Oh, do you really need to go that way? Come on, man.
Well,
I called you out for missing a goddamn giant.
No reason to call him a liar.
Okay,
You can't,
but
Yeah.
let's be honest here. Okay,
You
let's be
literally
honest
just
here.
said that like right-leaning people don't do this shit, and then he said, "Hey, some right-leaning people did do this shit."
A lot
he
of
wasn't
them.
Like you
lying
made
about
a
that. He's lying about
general
being a
blanket
liar.
statement, and now you're trying to like run away to a different point.
Exactly. Thank you.
Well,
Thanks for the
first of all,
bits.
I made the point, and I didn't run to anything. And I do have a problem with you calling someone a liar. I'm speaking up about it because I don't see why you have to call someone a liar, whether it be ignorance or opinion.
I don't know how you missed that giant campaign of people lighting their
He
Nikes
might
on
be
fire.
not. Look, he's on the right. You're on the left. You probably watching.
It was
different
reported
news.
on right-wing
I'm well
news
aware
more
of
than it
it.
was on left-wing news. We
I know
mostly laughed
exactly
about
what
it.
happened. I know exactly what happened. Yeah, some people did that. The point is that the market as a whole didn't suffer. Those businesses still sold product.
I know.
That was the main point.
But they complained about a boycott that they were going to do. I largely believe that public boycotts don't work anyways. But honestly, this idea that they don't cry and whine and boycott, they did claim they were doing a boycott while they were burning their products and saying, basically, fuck you to these companies. And it was reported on right-wing news. It was reported on left-wing news. It was reported on mainstream media. It was reported all over the place. So if you
that
missed
was
it,
true,
I have no idea how you missed it. It was a giant story.
If what you're saying is true and 50% of the country went in on hardcore boycotts on this, those companies would have tanked. That didn't happen, sorry.
Yeah, I know, because they still bought their products.
Well, I mean, okay.
They announced a boycott, but it was the dumbest way possible. It was
You like
basically,
Japan.
we're going to destroy these products, to show them what's up.
lctrfan, I don't think even on the left side, like not all people on the left boycott certain products. It's just a very certain portion on both sides.
Yeah, well, okay, but if you look at like the history of this country and like the hippies in the 60s and traditional leftist political tactics, it's undisputed that the left likes to protest more, they boycott more, they engage in tactics like that far more than the right, and that point stands.
I mean,
Here,
well, if we're gonna say that, then like, of course, because the black people like were probably liberal in the way that they thought. So of course, like, there's gonna be more protest on the. That's like such an unfair measurement.
well, I don't even want to say that. So look,
Take it
LR
like that.
lctrfan, I'm sure you heard the term "get woke, go broke," right?
Yep.
So, do you think that a leftist made that term?
Probably not, no. I don't know who
Yeah.
made it though.
Well, I'm sure it was people on the right who say, if you go get woke on us, we're not going to buy your products.
Right, yeah.
So I'm going to say it's equal on both sides.
Well, and honestly, like, to give a little bit of credit to your guys' side, I think there's a lot of truth to that too, because you look at companies like Chick-fil-A, for example, and the left tried to boycott Chick-fil-A and stuff, and they're doing just
Before
fine.
you say anything more, I just want to be very clear that I'm not on the left.
Yeah.
No,
and
I know right side. No, right side of history. I appreciate you standing up for me. Right side of history. I wasn't necessarily talking to you with that. I was just talking about just Marc, Mucky, and Synth and who.
Well, I mean, it's like I said, I don't believe that public boycotts work. In the system that we have, a lot of times the outreach is going to be too much to actually get to the general consumer. The general consumer is not going to care. People on the left may choose to not go to Chick-fil-A, but that doesn't mean people in the center even care or even know. I mean, largely, we're a pretty ill-informed country as a whole. We can all admit that. So
Yeah, it's and apathetic too, and that's the other problem I think is that even if people might not like these companies and what they're doing, like they don't actually care enough to actually do anything about it. And so lots of people don't like the fact that YouTube and Facebook and Instagram are censoring conservatives, and Google and everything else. But
they're censoring a lot of people.
Not enough to actually like use a different service, because the apathy and the ignorance.
That's a different conversation, because when you're talking about what YouTube does, which I mean, it's kind of changed the subject. So I'm hoping to not go too far in this, because it's a completely separate conversation. There's no other platform than YouTube. Still today, even with as big as Twitch is, it pales in comparison to views and marketing than YouTube.